Welcome to the 2024-2025 Indiana Department of Education Office of Student Assessment Corporation Test Coordinator Test Security and Integrity Training. Although this training was developed for CTCs, corporations may add local-level information to this resource to train school test coordinators, STCs. Outside of CTCs modifying this training to use with STCs, this training should not be used to train other corporation or school staff. IDOE has developed a separate training that can be used for training other corporation and school staff. This slide shares the agenda for the topics that will be covered during this training. Please take a moment to review the variety of topics that will be covered. Should your school be chosen for monitoring, an IDOE representative will evaluate your testing practices based on the Assessment Monitoring Checklist found in Appendix B of the Indiana Assessments Policy Manual. Throughout this training, items on the monitoring checklist will be noted with their location in the checklist. Feel free to refer to the checklist for more information. The first topic for today's training is CTC roles and responsibilities. The Office of Student Assessment, OSA, has a number of resources available for corporation test coordinators to assist in successful completion of their responsibilities. Every Monday, IDOE sends weekly newsletters called listservs to CTCs. The listservs are specific to each statewide assessment: iLearn, iRead, IAM, WIDA, and high school assessments SAT, iLearn Biology ECA, and optional iLearn Government ECA. Listservs contain updated information on the test, upcoming trainings or updates to the test or its platform, and available opportunities and resources specific to that assessment. It is the expectation that CTCs will then communicate these updates to applicable staff within their school corporation. Prior to an assessment, OSA will create a pre-test workshop, PTW, related to the upcoming test window. These PTWs are posted in Moodle's Test Coordinator Corner 3 weeks prior to the opening of the test window and are due 1 week prior to the test window opening. OSA tracks completion of PTWs and will reach out to CTCs who do not complete the PTW in the allotted time. Failure by the CTC to complete PTWs may result in a suspension of the testing platform accounts for the entire school corporation until the CTC is in compliance and has time to present training to school staff. In 2022, OSA created the CTC support community aimed at providing extra support to new CTCs. This support community is open to all CTCs and additional members regardless of duration in their role. We meet once a month and present information and how-tos on all things related to statewide assessments, the CTC role, or the specific upcoming test window. OSA team members will also be available at the end of the meeting for any questions on which CTCs need clarification or direction. Finally, the program leads for iLearn, iRead, IAM, SAT, and WIDA offer monthly office hours for assistance with their upcoming assessment. Generally, office hours begin with a slideshow presentation around the upcoming window, platform, etc., and end with a time for questions from attendees. Office hours are posted in Monday listservs and are open to any school staff member, not just CTCs. Once designated as the CTC, staff are expected to communicate with corporation and school staff, IDOE, assessment vendors, Cambium Assessment Inc., College Board, and WIDA, parents and students regarding statewide assessments and expectations. They must train all staff to administer assessments and access and interpret data. This includes ensuring that parents and students receive results securely in a timely manner following results. CTCs must ensure ethical testing practices are employed by trained staff and students. Staff must receive all staff test security and integrity training. This communication between CTCs and STCs is located in Box 1 of the Assessment Monitoring Checklist. Communication between the STC and school staff is located in Box 2. There are a variety of resources available to assist CTCs in their role. Let's discuss IDOE resources first. The Indiana Assessments Policy Manual shares important information about all assessment programs. The policy manual also contains a detailed list of CTC responsibilities. The Moodle Test Coordinator Corner provides access to some assessment forms, copies of current and previous listserv messages, and the Test Security Toolbox, which we will discuss later in this training. The Accessibility and Accommodations Information for Statewide Assessments Manual shares important information about accessibility and accommodations across all assessment programs. In addition, the IDOE assessment webpage has a lot of helpful information regarding our assessments. Lastly, the Office of Student Assessment staff are happy to assist CTCs with any questions via phone at 317-232-9050 or email at inassessments@doe.in.gov. There are also assessment vendor resources. Vendor systems and websites such as the Indiana Assessment Portal for iLearn, IAM, and iRead3, College Board's website for the SAT, WIDA AMS and the WIDA Secure Portal, and the iSprout K-Ready system house resources and trainings for IDOE's assessment programs. Additional resources like the blueprints for the iLearn through-year assessment and professional development opportunities can be found in the Indiana Learning Lab. Accounts are free and easy to set up. Details regarding IDOE resources specific to test security will be shared throughout the rest of this training. Let's take a look at the roles and responsibilities of other corporation staff. Listed on the next 3 slides are additional staff roles involved in testing. The role of Test Administrator, or TA, is responsible for the deployment of operational tests during an open test window. TAs must hold a valid teaching license or permit and must complete annual training and certification to administer assessments. TAs are referred to as proctors for College Board assessments. The role of School Test Coordinator, or STC, is appointed at the school level and is only required to be reported to College Board's SAT administration. IDOE does not track STCs. The STC ensures that all employees in their building have completed the proper training in preparation for test windows. Additionally, the STC oversees general monitoring of TAs and students during testing. Technology coordinators help oversee technical readiness, accurate data exchange, and additional data tasks. The iSprout Data Manager is responsible for working with IDOE to maintain up-to-date educator and student data, providing updates to users, and generating year-end reports. The IKRA Data Manager is responsible for ensuring the educator and student data is accurate, providing updates to users, and generating appropriate reports following the assessment window. The College Board SSD Coordinator is responsible for requesting accommodations in SSD Online and working with the STC to coordinate the SAT school day for students with disabilities. The College Board Technology Coordinator is responsible for managing all technical aspects of the digital SAT school day. The College Board Technology Monitor is responsible for helping students with technical issues on test day and therefore must be on site during testing. The additional member is a designation made in DOE Online and serves as a secondary or backup CTC. This individual will receive an account in Moodle's Test Coordinator Corner. In the event that the CTC must step away from school for a leave of absence, the additional member becomes the de facto CTC and is expected to fulfill all requirements of the CTC during the absence or until a new CTC can be established through DOE Online. Beginning in 2024-25, IDOE will also monitor completion of pre-test workshops in Moodle by additional members to ensure they are prepared to step in as CTC if needed. When school resumes in early fall, schools will have the option to appoint a WIDA test coordinator to support WIDA assessments. This role will also receive WIDA listserv announcements. It must be noted that ultimately, all CTC responsibilities are to be overseen by the corporation test coordinator, even if your school district appoints a WIDA test coordinator. Proctors for non-college board assessments are staff that assist the TA with overseeing test fidelity. Proctors do not have to be licensed staff, but they must be appropriately trained and monitored. Proctors are never to be left unattended in a testing environment. If the TA needs to step away from testing, all testing should be paused until the TA returns. Next, we will discuss key test security reminders and guidance. There are several key test security documents and resources related to test security that are listed on this slide. All have been updated for the new school year. Please carefully review these important documents and contact IDOE with any questions. One major update for the 23-24 testing windows was the conversion of paper-based forms to jot forms. Again this school year, testing irregularity reports, TIRs, testing concerns and security violation reports, and social media and/or unallowable devices concern reports will be submitted electronically via a jot form link. At the time of submission, CTCs can receive a printable copy of their report. This new electronic system eliminated the need to scan and/or fax your reports to IDOE. Look for more information and training on using these jot forms during our monthly CTC support community meetings. Please ensure that all school staff, everyone but the bus driver, receive test security and integrity training and sign the test security and integrity agreement by September 30th. These agreements should be kept locally on file with the STC. Should a school be monitored, IDOE will ask to view these documents. IDOE created a one-page test security training for custodians and cafeteria staff, should the CTC choose to use it. This training is very basic, since most custodial and cafeteria staff will not interact directly with testing or secure materials. Reference to this training is found in Box 4 of the Assessment Monitoring Checklist. The Test Security and Integrity Agreement are in Box 12. IDOE also created a resource called the Test Security Toolbox. The toolbox is located in the Test Coordinator corner in Moodle and includes a variety of sample documents. These sample documents were developed to assist corporations with developing appropriate local-level monitoring documentation. These samples can be reformatted and edited to meet local needs. CTCs can use this toolbox as a resource for developing local documentation. The sample documents include the following: attendance forms for test administration, test security, and accommodations trainings, a secure material chain of custody log, a log for checking rooms prior to testing and monitoring TAs during testing. Monitoring is required by IDOE during all statewide assessments, and a local test security policy template. Every school corporation, charter school, choice school, and accredited non-public school must have a locally developed written test security policy. This is Box 13 of the Assessment Monitoring Checklist. This local policy must be implemented and shared with staff. This requirement is described in Section 10, Part D of the Indiana Assessments Policy Manual and 3M in the Code of Ethical Practices and Procedures. While IDOE does not require school board approval of this policy, corporations should follow local level practices to determine if this policy needs to be approved by the local school board. Copying or pasting the Code of Ethical Practices and Procedures, or Section 10 Part D of the Policy Manual, as the corporation's local test security policy is not acceptable. Test security policies should include references and details related to local school corporation test security protocols. Section 10, Part D, shares guidelines regarding the required content of test security policies, but does not provide local level details. CTCs should use this list of requirements as a checklist to verify their local test security policy has all of the required components. Documentation, such as agendas, emails, staff signatures, etc., verifying the local test security policy has been reviewed and shared with staff, must be locally kept on file. In the event a school is selected for IDOE monitoring, this documentation will be requested. Please note that the lack of documentation showing a local test security policy was developed or shared with staff has been a common finding during IDOE monitoring. As such, CTCs will need to ensure a policy is developed and shared with staff. Additionally, the policy should be reviewed and updated yearly to reflect changes in legislation or testing practices or protocols. CTCs are encouraged to review the local test security policy template located in the Test Security Toolbox for more guidance. On the left of the screen is an example of the item requirements for a local test security policy found in Part D of the Assessment Policy Manual. On the right of the screen is the local test security policy template located in the TCC of Moodle. Information in red font is editable. However, information printed in black font is information that is required and must remain in your school's local test security policy. CTCs should compare their current corporation's policy against the template to ensure that all required information is included. IDOE creates training presentations prior to each testing window, except for College Board's Digital School Day, though general SAT requirements are covered in the high school PTW. These presentations are uploaded to Moodle's Test Coordinator Corner and can be used by CTCs to prepare staff for testing. CTCs are welcome to create their own testing presentation based on the information provided in IDOE's presentation. Required training documentation. The typical in-person meeting includes a paper sign-in sheet, which should have the title of the training, the date, the time, topics covered, and an area for each attendee to print and sign their names. The same components are required if performing the training digitally. A digital sign-in sheet, such as a Google form, should also include the title of the training, the topics covered, staff member sign-ins and possible email addresses, and a timestamp, which includes the date, time, and possibly the IP address. A digital sign-in is acceptable if it meets these requirements. As noted at the bottom of this slide, it is not sufficient to simply email the training video to staff. As the CTC, you are responsible for ensuring that all staff receive test security and integrity training and maintaining documented proof of this training. If you choose to present the training via a digital platform rather than in person, the platform must provide a digitally timestamped record of when the training was accessed by staff. To avoid a press play and walk away situation, IDOE recommends that CTCs using digital platforms develop some sort of check for understanding. When preparing materials for training staff, what constitutes an acceptable agenda? Your training agenda should have a header that details the title or purpose of the session, the date and time of the meeting, and who's presenting or leading the session. Additionally, take the opportunity to explain the assessment that will be given. Refresh and remind your staff about test security expectations and violations, and review the test administration materials so that TAs will know where to go for any information they need. Agendas, training materials, and sign-in sheets are expected for each test administration training. These items are requested for boxes 4 through 7 of the assessment monitoring checklist. The first training a CTC will provide is the Fall all staff test security training. All school staff must complete this training and sign the test security and integrity agreement by September 30th. In response to requests from Indiana schools, IDOE has created a test security and integrity checklist, which may be used for training custodial and cafeteria staff. This document will be housed in the TCC along with this CTC training and all staff training presentations. CTCs are not required to use the abbreviated checklist for custodial and cafeteria staff, but the resource is available for use. As a reminder, CTCs will still need to ensure that there is documentation of attendance and an agenda when training custodial and cafeteria staff in test security and integrity. If your school has opted to pilot the iLearn Through year, please bear in mind that the first checkpoint opens on September 16th. Therefore, all corporation staff will be required to complete both this test security and integrity training and the TA certification course on the assessment portal prior to the window opening. In addition to the fall all-staff test security training, TAs and proctors must complete several other trainings prior to each assessment window. iLearn, IM, and iRead 3 TAs must annually complete a TA certification course in Cambium's systems prior to testing. Please note that the IM TA certification course is separate and different than the other courses for the other programs. All TA certifications must be valid as of the time of testing. TAs cannot sign in to administer tests under another TA certification credentials, as this would put tests at risk of invalidation. WIDA TAs must successfully complete the training courses that correspond with each of the WIDA assessments they are responsible for administering. See the WIDA assessment guidance for details. Additionally, WIDA test coordinators are required to successfully complete the Online Access for ELL's Administration training course, as it covers a variety of test coordinator tasks. For the SAT school day, STCs, proctors, and technology monitors must complete required online training through their College Board professional account. Proctor training is mandatory for all educators serving as proctors per IDOE policy. Proctors must provide STCs with a copy of their certificate of completion. There are also local trainings that must be completed. IDOE pre-test workshops will first be uploaded in the Test Coordinator Corner course on Moodle 2 weeks prior to the start of the test administration window. IDOE will track completion of pretest workshops by both CTCs and the additional members, and follow up with those who failed to complete the workshop by the due date. TAs and proctors must complete test administration, accommodations, and refresher test security training provided by their CTC or STC prior to each assessment window. These are found in boxes 5 through 7 of the Assessment Monitoring Checklist. Let's discuss requirements before, during, and after testing. CTCs should establish a protocol for receiving assessment materials from vendors and should share this protocol during STC training. First, inventory all materials received from the vendor. When the testing window closes, CTCs are expected to return all secure materials to the vendor. This includes student test booklets used during the test administration, as well as unused materials. Your protocol should also include directions for schools in the event that a book is damaged or destroyed by students or staff. If this happens, be sure to note the serial number or barcode on the booklet prior to securely destroying it. You will need to account for all materials that were sent to you. Next, create a chain of custody document to monitor where each material is going. Have a sign-out sheet or other tracking system in place that indicates the time, date, and location secure materials were delivered to buildings, as well as a packing slip or inventory page with all items listed and who received them. Please encourage your STCs to implement this same protocol as they receive materials from the central office and while materials are in their building to ensure that all materials are packaged and returned to the CTC at the end of the test window. Secure storage of test materials and controlled and limited access to secure materials are boxes 8 and 9 of the Assessment Monitoring Checklist. CTCs and STCs, or their designees, also have monitoring responsibilities during testing. Prior to the start of testing, CTCs, STCs, or designees must monitor testing rooms to ensure that rooms are free from unallowable resources. Reference material with educational information like multiplication tables, vocabulary definitions, parts of speech, examples of student work, etc., should be covered or removed prior to testing. This includes reference materials like number lines that may be part of a student's name tag on desks. It is also important that CTCs or STCs keep a record of rooms that have been checked and follow up with rooms where violations were found. Should your school be chosen for monitoring, documentation of local monitoring of test rooms is box 10 of the Assessment Monitoring Checklist. CTCs, STCs, or designees must monitor testing rooms during testing to ensure TAs and proctors are adhering to test administration and test security protocols with fidelity. There is a TA monitoring template in the TCC that schools can edit and use to meet this expectation. On the Assessment Monitoring Checklist, this is box 11. Please remind staff that they are not allowed to have access to cell phones, smartwatches, or other devices while in the testing room. Please remind staff that it is never okay to take a picture or screenshot of any testing materials or screens. As artificial intelligence, AI, becomes more prevalent and accessible, CTCs, STCs, or designees should be alert when monitoring and check that students are not accessing ChatGPT, Math AI, or another app or platform while testing. It is important that student accommodations are correct in the school's SIS and TIDE prior to testing. Starting a test with or without accommodations a student is due could result in invalidations for that student. TAs must also be trained in the accommodations available for the test they will be administering. All tests have accommodations, but the accommodation names may be different or may function differently from test to test. It's important that CTCs or STCs provide training on accommodations prior to testing. This is found in box 7 of the Assessment Monitoring Checklist. Personally Identifiable Information, or PII, is a Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, term referring to identifiable information that is maintained in education records and includes various combinations of the items listed here. Combined, this information can be used to distinguish or trace an individual's identity either directly or indirectly through links with other information. When reaching out to IDOE about a situation with a student, please only provide the 9-digit Student Test Number, STN, and no other information. If you are contacted internally by school personnel and need to forward this information to IDOE, please redact all PII so only the STN remains. If TAs encounter a problem with an item or the testing platform, they simply need to provide the CTC or STC with the test name and item number. An example would be Grade 3 ELA CAT, Item 4. If TAs have the session ID number or can provide the STN of the student having the difficulty, that would be helpful, but is not necessary. TAs and proctors must continually monitor students during testing. Consequently, it is important that they give test administration their full attention. It is not acceptable for TAs and/or proctors to leave students unsupervised for any amount of time, to concentrate on other tasks or materials, or to otherwise ignore what is happening. TAs and proctors need to walk around the testing room, actively monitoring students throughout test sessions. Students must be monitored to ensure they follow directions, do not exchange answers with others, use only allowable materials and devices, and do not interfere with or distract others. One common issue found in 2023-24 test irregularity reports was in relation to item number 3. Several invalidations were the result of students reaching into desks or backpacks for folders or classwork on which resources like multiplication tables, writing tips, etc. were found. TA should ensure students understand that while knowing where to find these resources is commendable for classwork, when testing, this is viewed as cheating due to access to unallowable resources. Please review the Indiana Assessments Policy Manual for more details. Section 6, Part C, number 5. The purpose of IDOE monitoring is to ensure schools are appropriately implementing test administration and test security protocols. Schools are identified for monitoring based on previously submitted test irregularities, test security concerns, failure of a CTC to complete required training by designated deadlines, failure to return secure test materials by required deadlines, data forensics analysis concerns, and a random sample derived from Indiana demographic data. Please be sure to review Section 2 of the Indiana Assessments Policy Manual, as well as the Assessment Monitoring Checklist in Appendix B for more details. There are a number of things staff may mistakenly or intentionally do during testing that are considered inappropriate actions. CTCs need to inform STCs they must remind staff it is not appropriate to take the actions that are listed on this slide. One additional note that should be mentioned is related to the coaching text at the bottom of this slide. Even if a TA or proctor does not provide the correct answer to a student, but provides tips, refers to prior lessons completed or classroom examples, or shares that an answer is incorrect, this is coaching and is not appropriate. CTCs need to also inform STCs they must remind staff it's not appropriate to implement the actions listed on this slide. When reading test directions, it is important that TAs read everything in the say boxes verbatim. When TAs deviate from this, irregularities greatly increase. Some irregularities result in invalidations. Translation of specific test questions or test content in a student's native language is not permissible during testing. However, translation of general directions that all students receive is permissible. Before testing, TAs must communicate test security protocols with students in order to prevent potential invalidations due to violations. A few of these communication topics are listed on this slide. For example, students should be reminded that they cannot do the following: discuss, rephrase, or paraphrase test questions or materials in person, by phone, via email, texting, or social media, or any other communication method with anyone, including but not limited to other students. Access cell phones, smartwatches, or any other unauthorized device during testing. Or take pictures, snapshots, or videos of any test materials, practice or operational. Please review the Indiana Assessments Policy Manual for more details. Section 6, Part B, Number 1. If a concern arises regarding the functionality of a test item, CTCs should establish a protocol to pause the test, document the time if applicable, and have TAs contact the STC or CTC. During such communication, TAs should only refer to the item by sharing the assessment name, grade level, content area, session, section, or segment number and item number. TAs should not discuss the content of the test question, not even to IDOE or a vendor. Never email, text, photograph, video, or post a copy of the item, a paraphrased item, or answer choices, not even to IDOE or a vendor. The STC or CTC will then notify IDOE or the testing vendor if warranted, based on the concern. Discussing test items before, during, or after testing is not appropriate. Test items are not to be discussed unless and until the items are released on the website via the Released Items Repository, RIR. As such, CTCs and STCs should ensure staff understand the following. Reviewing test questions with students is not acceptable until or unless IDOE releases the items by posting them on the website, and discussing, videoing, texting, photographing, emailing, or posting actual or paraphrased test questions is not acceptable until or unless IDOE releases the items by posting them on the website. CTCs and STCs must control the secure storage, distribution, administration, and collection of test materials before, during, and after testing. For online testing, although there are no actual test booklets, the secure storage requirement relates to scratch paper, test tickets, student access cards, TA rosters, and any documentation with student names and STNs. For paper testing, the following protocols regarding the security of materials should be followed. Prior to testing, each CTC must verify and document that all test materials shipped by the vendor have arrived. The vendor must be immediately contacted in the event that not all materials are received. Documentation regarding correspondence and reconciliation with the vendor must be kept locally on file. Prior to testing, each STC must verify and document that all test materials from the corporation's central office have been received at the school site. The STC must immediately contact the CTC in the event that not all materials have been received. Documentation regarding correspondence with the CTC and any reconciliation must be kept on file at the school site and/or by the CTC. During testing, CTCs and STCs must implement an inventory and tracking system that accounts for test materials at all times. At the start and end of each testing day, a sign-in, sign-out sheet, or some type of tracking document should be used to record the distribution and return of all secure test materials, including but not limited to test booklets, scratch paper, test tickets, access or login codes, etc. Before the end of each testing day, the STC or designee should reconcile the test materials sign-in, sign-out sheet with the actual test materials that are in the secure storage. This is a critical step to help ensure any missing materials are promptly located and returned to the secure storage daily. TAs should not be allowed to keep secure materials stored in their rooms. See boxes 8 and 9 of the assessment monitoring checklist. In addition, during testing, STCs will need to keep documentation on file if a book is damaged and will not be returned to the vendor. After testing, CTCs and STCs will need to keep documentation on file that all applicable secure materials have been returned by established deadlines to the vendor. This includes tracking numbers provided by UPS or other mailing services. IDOE and testing vendors will be monitoring vendor receipt of secure test documents from schools and corporations. Lastly, lack of secure storage of test materials was a common finding during IDOE monitoring. CTCs need to ensure during trainings with STCs the following points are covered: a principal's office, teacher's room, or other location that anyone has unsupervised and unlocked access to secure test materials at any point is not considered a secure location for the storage of secure test materials. Whether there is one student in a school being tested or multiple students being tested, TAs and proctors cannot be allowed to keep secure test materials in their possession after test sessions have concluded for the day. These materials include, but are not limited to, scratch paper, test booklets, etc. The STC or designee must oversee the signing in and signing out of secure materials at the beginning and end of each testing day. If a school is selected for IDOE monitoring, secure storage of test materials will be verified. CTCs are encouraged to review the sample secure materials log located in the Test Security Toolbox for more guidance. All secure items must be collected and managed as defined in manuals for each respective assessment program. CTCs must keep appropriate documentation verifying proper disposal and return of secure materials to vendors locally on file. Materials found after pickup must be immediately returned to the testing vendor. Materials found more than 5 days after pickup will not be scored. Corrective action will be required in the event materials are not returned to vendors by established deadlines or if materials are lost. Please review the Test Materials Return and Destruction Guidance document in Appendix I of the Assessment Policy Manual for more details. A testing irregularity is an unexpected event that significantly disrupts the testing environment of one or more students. TAs should report irregularities to the STC or CTC immediately. If warranted, the CTC will then report the irregularity to IDOE by completing the TIR dot forms. Please be sure to include the STNs of students affected by the irregularity. For SAT School Day, test irregularities are reported directly to College Board through Test Day Toolkit, TDTK. No TIR form is required for IDOE. Common irregularities that were reported to IDOE that should be avoided this year include TAs not administering the operational test with the correct script or manual. CTCs and STCs need to ensure TAs have the proper manuals and scripts prior to testing, specifically the iRead3 secure script for paper testers. TAs need to confirm access to and review the appropriate manual prior to testing. TA error when starting or approving tests. This typically occurred when TAs did not verify they were approving the correct test for students before allowing students to proceed. TAs need to make sure they are starting or assigning the correct test. We saw many TIRs where the TA accidentally approved a PT test when they meant to approve a CAT. In some cases, the PT had to be invalidated due to the time students spent in the test prior to the TA realizing the error. New for the 24-25 school year, the PT now has a new feature that automatically logs out the student at the end of Part 1. CTCs and STCs should instruct their TAs to inform them immediately if they accidentally open a PT, as this action will start the clock on the student's opportunity to complete this task. It should be made clear to TAs during test administration training that, due to the timestamp on online tests, the PT clock starts the moment the TA approves the session, even in error. If they do not immediately report this mistake to the STC or CTC, students may lose their one opportunity to complete the PT. In most cases, if a PT is approved in error, a CTC will make the decision to allow students to complete the PT, which must be finished the day it is started. Students and staff with cell phones or other electronic devices in the testing room. When STCs are conducting local test administration training with staff, they should remind TAs that cell phones, iPads, smartwatches, etc., are not allowed in the testing room for students or staff. Schools should make an additional effort to inform students about the seriousness of invalidations and the repercussions for students and schools when tests are invalidated. Perhaps schools could establish consequences on the local level for students who fail to comply with this expectation. Accommodations not being updated prior to testing. When STCs are conducting local accommodations training, they should review how TAs can verify before testing that students will receive the appropriate accommodations and the need to ensure they receive those accommodations during testing. For some designated features, like stacked Spanish, there is a completely different testing form than a regular CAT session. Once a student begins with this designated feature, there is no way to turn it off in the middle of the test. This means the student will have to restart the CAT from the beginning with the designated feature turned off. Lastly, TAs should contact their STC for guidance on test irregularities as soon as possible, rather than notifying STCs days or weeks after irregularities have occurred. Late notification to the STC and subsequently the IDOE can lead to invalidations that could have been avoided had follow-up been more prompt. As stated previously, a testing irregularity is any unexpected event that significantly disrupts the testing environment of one or more students. However, some disruptions, particularly with technology, do not have to be reported. If the disruption is due to a district-wide outage or disruption, but is resolved quickly so that testing can resume, you do not need to file a TIR. If the disruption is due to devices that glitch during testing, but you're able to reboot the device or switch devices and resume testing, you do not need to file a TIR. Some common TIRs can be avoided through preparation prior to testing. Accommodations TIRs can often be avoided by scheduling case conferences to discuss needed accommodations and by working with your school's IT department to ensure that those accommodations are reflected in TIDE. To assist with determining whether or not a situation warrants a TIR, IDOE has included a common irregularities chart in Chapter 7 of the iLearn TAM. If you're unsure about next steps in a situation, please review this chart or reach out directly to the Office of Student Assessment staff. All concerns regarding test security violations must be immediately reported to the CTC and STC and immediately reported by CTCs or STCs to IDOE. Waiting until after the assessment window is closed to report test security concerns is not appropriate. Failing to report a test security concern immediately to the CTC, STC, and/or IDOE is in and of itself a test security violation. Finally, test security violations must be investigated by appropriate corporation staff. This slide shares common test security violations that were reported to IDOE that should be avoided this year. Let's discuss the first two violations listed on this slide: unallowable resources and inappropriate use or access to cell phones. This includes students having access to multiplication charts, class notes or homework, or handheld calculators when they do not have that accommodation. TAs and proctors will need to establish and enforce local protocols for collecting and removing cell phones or other unallowable devices from the room before testing begins. This includes devices in the possession of the adults in the room. The only exception is if there is no other way to communicate, like a classroom phone. Remember, it is not appropriate for staff or students to review, discuss, video, text, post, photograph, or email actual or paraphrased test questions or content. Another common violation reported to IDOE was coaching. Remember, it is not appropriate to do the following: indicate in any way that an answer choice is correct or incorrect, should be reconsidered, or should be checked. Answer students' factual questions regarding test items or vocabulary. Use any type of timing device. Or say, do, or write anything on the board that is not explicitly described in manuals. The last common violation reported to IDOE is related to missing or late return of secure test materials. All test materials should be signed out and returned at the end of the testing session. CTCs and STCs are responsible for the inventory and tracking of test materials until they are returned to the test vendor. Be sure to follow the appropriate protocols for documented pickup and return of secure materials back to the STC. Let's briefly discuss IDOE's data forensics policy. After testing is finished and all items have been scored, IDOE receives data forensic information from testing vendors. The data forensics areas of review are response change, test administration time, performance change, and person fit. For a testing session to be flagged, there must be a discrepancy of 4 to 6 standard deviations greater than the state average in one of these 4 areas. IDOE uses the following process steps related to analyzing the data forensic information received. The analysis provided by the vendor is reviewed. Identified corporations are then required to evaluate their data for test administration and/or test security concerns following this internal review based on defined flagging criteria. These corporations are required to complete documentation and conduct interviews to gather more details regarding any test sessions identified as concerns. IDOE reviews submitted corporation documentation and notifies the corporation if additional action steps are necessary. Finally, IDOE determines if additional steps may be taken due to concerns regarding data integrity, i.e. validity and/or reliability of the assessment administration. Finally, let's review CTC's next steps and ways to contact IDOE. Various points of contact are available depending on the type of guidance and assessment for which you're seeking information. Contact IDOE's Office of Student Assessment for support with general policy guidance and questions. Johns Hopkins University may be contacted for questions about the K-Ready assessment. Cambium Assessments, Inc. may be contacted with technical questions for iLearn, iRead3, and iAM. College Board can address questions via email or phone. WIDA offers both the WIDA Client Services Center and DRC Customer Service to support technical WIDA assistance. There are several action steps CTCs will need to complete by September 30th. These action steps are outlined on this slide. Please note that all of these action steps are an annual requirement for CTCs. This concludes this year's CTC test security training. It is essential for all school staff to be familiar with appropriate assessment test security protocols. All training is housed in the Test Coordinator corner of Moodle, but only the CTC and an optional additional member have access to the training. It is your responsibility to download training materials, documents, listservs, etc., and distribute them to the STCs, TAs, and corporation staff, and to ensure they complete training and understand testing protocols and procedures. If you have any questions about any local test security guidance or practices, please contact IDOE in advance to minimize potential violations. Thank you for reviewing this training. On behalf of the Indiana Department of Education, we wish you a successful school year.